we begin the timeline of George Washington, who basically ignited the French and Indian War in 1754 when he was 22 years old. People around the world don't understand the significance of southwestern Pennsylvania. As you can see, we have Queen Aliquippa here. Went up to 3 miles to the mouth of the Youghiogheny River to visit Queen Aliquippa, who had expressed great concern that we passed her in going to the fort, meaning Fort Duquesne at the point. So this area here, southwestern Pennsylvania, is so critical to the French and the British empires. People don't understand the logistical, economic significance of the colonization of this region in the Indian control. But after the French and Indian War, it evolved into the Whiskey Rebellion, probably the earliest rebellion in American history before the Confederacy, before the Civil War, before the Southern Rebellion. You had up here in southwestern Pennsylvania in the Pittsburgh region the Whiskey Rebels, basically protesting the whiskey tax. This is a whiskey still right here that was made by the Ulster Scott descendants. So basically the descendants of the Ulster Scott immigrants depended on whiskey as currency. So as you can see, we have it bottled, and then this is the whiskey still that the whiskey was brewed in. And when George Washington was president, it says here, a spirited conflict. Residents of this region reacted quickly when the federal government placed an excess tax on domestically produced whiskey in 1791. At first they petitioned the government and used peaceful means to protest. But as you can see, these American Revolution veterans were very mad that their whiskey was being taxed unfairly by the Washington administration, thanks to Alexander Hamilton's scheming as Secretary of the Treasury. And as we can see, my cousin Thomas Jefferson, when he was president, wanted to explore the West. So we shall delineate with correctness the great arteries of this great country. Those who come after us will fill up the canvas we begin. Thomas Jefferson and Meriwether Lewis, May 1804. Lewis and Clark were basically granted permission by President Jefferson and the federal government to go explore the West, to basically explore the Western territory, unknown at the time. Very adventurous task. But Thomas Jefferson, my cousin, distant cousin, mind you, was very, let's just say, inquisitive about expanding the United States into the West. And this is apparently what a territorial Western, when I'm talking about Western, I'm talking about what Pittsburgh looked like in the primitive days into the late 1700s, early 1800s. This is what a home would look like. This is what a kitchen would have looked like in that territorial Western primitive style. It's very interesting to see, like, for example, like a flintlock musket. These things were essential, especially out in the territory in the wilderness at the time. And as you can see, the woman of the house, or the wife, servant, basically cooking and cleaning. No sexist stereotype there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not that rude or ignorant, but at the time, that's just the way it was. I mean, what are you going to do? You can't change history because of political correctness. Sorry. And as you can see, from Iron City to Steamboat City. So as you can see, into the middle 1800s, the innovations of industry basically progressing into what Pittsburgh is known at, was known as the city of industry. It says that Pittsburgh's coal, wood, and iron ore fueled industry. By 1815, so many new foundries and factories had opened that the Iron City called itself the Birmingham of America, after England's industrial hub. So what's really cool about this, the Birmingham of America, Birmingham, England, was the industrial hub of England. But in parts of Pittsburgh, like the south side of Pittsburgh, it was known as Birmingham Borough because of its industrial culture, industrial environment, and things of this nature were popping up left and right into the early to mid 1800s in southwestern Pennsylvania, especially in Pittsburgh with the Three Rivers. Industry really thrived in this region. But what's really cool about this place, it gives you a timeline of what the setting would have looked like. So we have the evolution of like a primitive log cabin in the early, let's just say, 1800s. Then you got the progression of what Pittsburgh would have looked like into the, let's say, early to mid 1800s, when my ancestors were basically starting to reside in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And this is a really cool depiction right here of dog Jack. So as you can see, Jack the dog, many people would look at him and go, well, what's so significant special about this dog? So Jack, loyal and undemanding, dogs were common companions during the Civil War. Jack, brown and white mixed bulldog, was a mascot of the Niagara Engine Company, followed the men when they enlisted in Company F of the 102nd Pennsylvania Volunteers during the Civil War. Let me zoom up on this a wee bit. It says, regimental history records that Jack was present in all the major battles of Fair Oaks, Antietam, Fredericksburg, Gettysburg, the Wilderness, and many others. Captured twice, he served 6 months in prison at Richmond before being exchanged for a Confederate soldier. Toward the end of the war, Jack disappeared, perhaps stolen, for his fancy silver collar. So this is what Jack was found in Pittsburgh as a stray and was adopted by the men who would later fight in the Civil War, which is really cool. Really awesome piece of history right there, Pittsburgh history especially. As you can see, we've basically divulged into the evolution of the industry of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And as you can see, this is what made Pittsburgh such a significant part of Pittsburgh's military history and the United States military history, the Allegheny Arsenal. The Allegheny Arsenal, located in present-day Lawrenceville, exploded on September 17th, 1862, because, as you can see, this woman at the time during the Civil War was rolling up musket cartridges, or, for Minet balls. When the Minet balls were packed into the cartridges during the Civil War, there was gunpowder all over the floor. So as you can see, the Minet balls right here. So what she would do, she'd roll them up into the cartridges that the soldiers would use on the battlefield. But there was black powder all over the ground at the Allegheny Arsenal. And when a spark lit something, probably from a horseshoe, as you can see, a horseshoe probably lit a spark, it ignited the black powder on the ground, which blew up the arsenal. On the same day, ironically, as the Battle of Antietam, September 17th, 1862. This right here shows the artillery, basically the cannonballs, and what was in them, the projectiles, and what was in the artillery during the time of the Civil War. It just shows how amazing Pittsburgh was, fundamental Pittsburgh was during the time of the Civil War, that supplied the whole Union Army, the federal government, with means to be able to fight the rebellion. And this is the age of oil. So oil was a big thing about Pittsburgh. People don't realize that southwestern Pennsylvania is an oil hub. Oil was so essential to the production and industry in the Steel City, or in the Iron City of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at the time. As you can see, the evolution of the industry in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It says here, as many as 100 people shared this outhouse and water pump. Look, it says that 100 people shared the water pump and the outhouse.
What year?
Probably about the 1800s, like the 1840s, 50s, 60s, like during the Civil War.
They had a plug. They could charge their phone.
Yeah, they had a receptacle. Look.
Yep.
But look at the outhouse. You told me about the outhouse back in Southside, because they said you didn't have indoor plumbing until when?
The dog hang out there, or was the dog
The
not
20s?
in the house?
I don't know.
The dog, Jack was a stray.
Jack was a war hero.
He was a stray dog, and then they found him on the streets. Look, deadly drinking water.
You can go here.
From 1883 to 1908, Pittsburgh had the highest reported death rate from typhoid of any city in the world.
I would not put the outhouse next to the well pump.
Yeah, more than 7,000 people died from the waterborne illness, disease. Tainted water
Told you typhoid.
drawn from polluted rivers was largely to blame, but cramped housing in the city's poor neighborhoods lacked sanitation and inadequate sewage systems, and also contributed to the problem. You know that people used to go down from Mount Washington
The worst of clothes.
and wash their clothes in the rivers
Take baths.
and get drinking water and take baths. Back when Mount Washington was first being settled.
Typhoon was bad. Didn't I tell you?
Only 3 families had running water in their houses.
That's it.
In no court were fewer than 5 families using 1 yard hydrant or pump, while in exceptional instances it was the sole supply as many as 20.
Yep.
As in 1908, leading to an immediate decline in disease, chlorination of drinking water followed in 1911 and death rates dropped. But sewage continued to foul the city's rivers until 58, when Elkistan built a sewage treatment plant, ending a long crusade for clean water and better public.
But look at the way our ancestors lived. That's the kind of conditions
These
our
were the
ancestors.
outhouses?
Yeah, those were the outhouses behind. That's the backyards,
Yep.
and the people would have to go down out of their back doors
That's what run.
and go shit in the outhouses right there.
My dad had 4 or 5 houses in one of the houses.
Yeah, and that's what they look like. They were
That's why
like
the yards
like this.
All the yards were built like that.
Yeah, that's why the houses were.
Thousands of open privy vaults in the city of Pittsburgh
Yep.
facilitated the spread of disease by the rise in contact between humans who shared the facilities.
Exactly.
Look at that. In 1907, 5,652 people in Pittsburgh contracted typhoid fever. 648 died.
Water filtration lowered the typhoid fever death rate in Pittsburgh by over 900%. So in Ireland, when they're making fun of us, this chlorination though,
The chlorination did save. I mean, it was.
now it's over.
But well, using chlorine to this day when we have other methods of sanitation is kind of primitive, in my opinion. But look at this. This is what like places like Southside would have looked like, or Lawrenceville back when our ancestors lived there in the 1800s, early 1900s. Like, it's really neat to see the depiction of that history. Look at the clothes being hung,
Yeah.
being dried. Look
They
at
did it
that.
in, like France and stuff.
Yeah.
They still make their stuff like that.
Isn't that awesome? But in Ireland, do you know they still do this? They believe in like air drying your clothes. They don't believe in dryers, and like, because when I went there, they were like, we don't have dryers, and I'm like, what are you talking about? This is, that's
Small coffin.
that's for a kid. That was very common back in the day for kids to die, and they used to have, like Dad said, and I saw this in newspapers. The wakes were in the houses.
Yeah.
They didn't have, like, you didn't really go to like funeral homes.
Look at this poor donkey. I think they lived down in there. Look at that donkey's face.
Mm-hmm.
Being obedient.
Oh yeah, in the coal mines. Well, you know that Mount Washington was there's mines all underneath when Mount Washington was being settled in the late 1800s, early 1900s. This was all it was coal miners.
500 men are killed by a terrific explosion in West Virginia mine. Entombed far beneath the Earth's surface, any others not now dead are doomed to perish by fire and suffocation. Means of rescue are cut off. Explosion in Pittsburgh Coal Company's mine in Jacobs Creek, Westmoreland County, kills nearly 200 men and imprisons scores of others behind impassable burning barriers. Open lamp reported cause. Rescue parties hard at work, harrowing scenes. And that donkey lived down there.
Yep.
Look at his face.
Mm-hmm. Look at this
That
one.
makes me sick.
It says coal. It says that it heated homes, ran railroads, powered ships, lit lamps, opened industrial machinery, and manufactured coke for iron and steel production.
Look, now known as
Yep.
Coal Hill.
Coal Hill.
Now known as
Mount Washington.
Supplied
Yep.
fuel for the British outpost at Fort Pitt. Pittsburgh, the site of one of the earliest American coal mining operations. By the early 1900s, the industry had expanded precipitously, and the global demand for coal reached immense proportions. The Pittsburgh coal seam, a rich bituminous vein covering northern West Virginia and southwestern Pennsylvania, provided one of the most important natural resources in the world. Even in Steel City, coal was king.
Well, coal was a big part of steel production.
We were known for coal way before we were known for.
Yeah, coal was one of the biggest things.
Here's what they wore.
Yeah, that's the artifacts from the coal mines and that.
Carnegie, frick, all of them. They got much on coal way before they got
So what happened with like the getting water to the horses and mules and
bucketed it down.
Put
what
buckets
about
in.
their feces and going to
They
bathroom?
bucketed it back out.
I bet
They came on.
it was so huge. I find that hard to believe because I heard some of the horses never left work.
Ah, look. This is the Homestead Steel Strike. This is when they killed the workers for going on strike. On July 6, 1892, Homestead, Pennsylvania, striking steelworkers organized by the Amalgamated Association of Iron and Steel Workers clashed with 300 Pinkerton detectives. Guns are fired. The strike fails. Scabs are escorted in. 45 years passed without union representation. The legacy of Homestead, however, galvanized the labor movement for decades to follow. Did you know that they sent detectives in to kill them because they shut down the steel mill. They shot them.
The show we watch.
Yeah.
And that's what
Go ahead, go. No, you can't go.
I think I can.
oh, that's really
I
cool.
want to go to a public restroom.
Got it.